Park Jinnah had been living on the Galactic Unity Station for 3 years. She was the human ambassador, which meant she spent most of her days talking to aliens, signing papers, and trying not to cause problems between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. It was a hard job. Aliens were strange. They looked strange, they acted strange, and they definitely did not understand humans very well. But Jinnah had learned the rules. The most important rule was simple: never let alien children near humans who were not being watched. Human adults said things, bad things, things that should not be repeated by anyone, especially not by cute alien cubs who did not know what those words meant. Jinnah broke that rule on a Tuesday. It was poker night. Every week, the human crew members gathered in the recreation hall to play cards, drink cheap beer that was shipped from Earth, and complain about their jobs. Jinnah usually joined them. It helped her feel normal. It helped her remember that she was still human, even though she spent her days surrounded by creatures with too many eyes and not enough legs. That night the game was in the corner of the recreation hall. The lights were dim. The music was soft. Chief Engineer was losing badly and everyone was laughing at him. Was a big man with a loud voice and a very bad temper when it came to cards. He had been on the station for 5 years, longer than anyone else. He fixed the machines, kept the lights on, and made sure the station did not fall apart. He was good at his job. He was not good at poker. Nobody noticed the small creature hiding under the table. Was a cub. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They looked like someone had mixed a fox with a cloud and then added too many parts. Had 6 legs, soft white fur that seemed to float around her body, and 7 eyes that blinked at different times. She also had 7 ears, which meant she could hear everything, even whispers from across the room. Was supposed to be with her caretaker. Her mother, High Diplomat, was in a meeting about trade routes and taxes, boring adult stuff. Had gotten bored waiting, so she had walked away. She had followed the sound of laughter until she found the human recreation hall. The door had been open. She had walked in. Nobody had seen her. Now she was under the table, watching the strange human game with great interest. The humans were putting small round things in the middle of the table and then showing each other pieces of paper with pictures on them. Sometimes they were happy. Sometimes they were angry. It was very confusing. Slammed his cards on the table. He had lost again. His face was red. His hands were shaking. What came out of his mouth next was not appropriate for any setting, formal or informal, on any planet in the known galaxy. He cursed. He cursed a lot. He used words that Jinnah had not heard since she was a teenager on Earth. He called the cards names. He called the other players names. He even called the table a name which did not make sense but was not thinking clearly. Under the table, 7 ears stood straight up. Her translator implant, a small organic device that had been placed in her brain when she was born, recorded every single word. The implant was designed for diplomatic work. It was very, very good at remembering things. Did not understand what the words meant, but she understood that they were powerful. The other humans were laughing so hard that some of them were crying. One woman fell off her chair. Even the angry man started to smile after a while. These words made strong emotions happen. Found this very interesting. When dropped something on the floor and bent down to pick it up, he found himself face to face with a small, fluffy creature with 7 blinking eyes. He screamed. Screamed too, because screaming seemed like the right thing to do. The whole table exploded into chaos. Cards flew everywhere. Beer spilled. Someone knocked over a lamp. Jinnah jumped to her feet and saw the cub scrambling out from under the table, her 6 legs moving in a blur of white fur. Jinnah felt her heart stop. She knew that cub. Everyone on the station knew that cub. That was the daughter of High Diplomat, one of the most important aliens in the entire sector. That cub had just heard his entire vocabulary of bad words. Stood in the middle of the room, looking up at the frozen humans with curiosity. Her translator was still processing. Then she opened her small mouth and asked a question that made Jinnah want to disappear. "What does son of a mean?" The room went completely silent. Jinnah could hear her own heartbeat. She could hear breathing heavily next to her. She could hear the soft hum of the station's engines in the walls. The words had come out in perfect galactic standard, but with a slight Korean accent that had picked up from the translator. It was adorable. It was terrifying. Jinnah knelt down slowly, trying to smile. "That is not a nice phrase, little one. You should not repeat it." "But why?" asked. Her 7 eyes blinked in a wave from left to right. The big human said it and everyone laughed. "Does it make people happy?" Made a sound like he was dying. Jinnah shot him a look that could have killed a smaller man. "It is complicated," Jinnah said carefully. "Those words are only for adults, and only for special times. They are not for cubs." Thought about this. Her ears moved back and forth as she processed the information. So they are secret words, special words. Jinnah hesitated. She could see where this was going. She could see the trap forming right in front of her. "In a way, yes," she said slowly. "But the secret is that you should not say them at all." His eyes brightened. "That makes them even more special." Before Jinnah could say anything else, a loud voice came from the doorway. "Tiori." High Diplomat stood at the entrance of the recreation hall. She was tall, elegant, and her fur was rippling through shades of purple and blue that meant she was very, very worried. Behind her, a small alien that looked like a walking mushroom was panting heavily. That was clearly the caretaker who had lost the cub. Rushed forward and scooped up her daughter. She looked at the humans with apologetic eyes. "I am so sorry for the disturbance. My daughter has a habit of exploring. She did not cause any trouble, I hope." Jinnah forced a smile onto her face. "No trouble at all. She was just watching us play a game." Snuggled into her mother's fur, looking perfectly innocent. She did not say anything about the new words she had learned. As carried her daughter away, looked back at the humans over her mother's shoulder. She blinked all 7 of her eyes at. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, a knowing smile. The smile of a child who had just learned something she was not supposed to know. Sat down heavily in his chair. "I am going to lose my job." Jinnah stared at the empty doorway. "Maybe. But right now, I am more worried about what happens when that cub decides to share her new vocabulary with her friends." Went pale. They were known for 2 things in the galaxy. First, they had perfect memory. They never forgot anything, ever. Second, they had absolutely no understanding of the human concept called timing. Jinnah had a very bad feeling about the next few weeks. 1 week passed. Jinnah tried to forget about the poker night incident. She told herself that maybe had already forgotten the words. Maybe the cub had moved on to other interests. Maybe everything would be fine. She was wrong. The first report came from Lieutenant. He worked in the Human Diplomatic Corps, which meant he helped Jinnah with all the boring paperwork and difficult conversations. He was young, smart, and usually very calm. But when he walked into Jinnah's office that morning, his face was the color of old paper. "We have a problem," he said. Jinnah looked up from her desk. She had been reading a report about food imports. It was boring, but at least it was safe. "What kind of problem?" Put a tablet on her desk. The screen showed a video recording from the station's Youth Education Center. This happened an hour ago. Jinnah pressed play. The video showed a classroom full of alien cubs. There were cubs with their floating fur and many eyes. There were cubs who looked like baby praying mantises with extra arms. There were cubs who sparkled like living crystals. There were cubs from species Jinnah did not even recognize. In the front of the room, an adult was teaching a lesson about mathematics. The class was quiet and peaceful. Then a small cub raised one of its 4 arms. "Teacher," the cub said in a high, clicking voice, "I do not understand this problem. I think it is complete bull and the answer is stupid." The teacher froze. Its large compound eyes went wide. Then it fell over. Jinnah stopped the video. She stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she looked up at. Please tell me that cub did not say what I think it said. Nodded slowly. It did, and that is not the worst part. There is a worst part. Pointed at the video. Keep watching. Jinnah pressed play again. The classroom was in chaos now. Other cubs were gathering around the fallen teacher. Some were trying to help. Others were laughing. And in the middle of the room, a familiar white, fluffy shape was bouncing up and down with excitement. Was surrounded by other cubs. She was speaking quickly, her 7 ears waving with enthusiasm. The other cubs were listening with great interest. Some of them were practicing new words under their breath. She taught them, Jinnah whispered. She taught all of them. Sat down in the chair across from her desk. He looked like he wanted to cry. According to my sources, has been holding vocabulary lessons during break times. She calls it human emotion language class. 17 cubs from 12 different species have attended so far. Jinnah put her head in her hands. 17 cubs. And they all have the same organic translator implants. Continued. The words are now permanently stored in their neural pathways. They cannot be removed without serious brain surgery. Jinnah made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. The Galactic Council quarterly meeting is in 6 days. I know. The same meeting where all 47 member species send their most important diplomats. I know. And half of those diplomats have children in that education center. Was silent for a moment, then he said, I know. Jinnah stood up. She walked to her window and looked out at the stars. The Galactic Unity Station floated in the darkness between 3 different solar systems. It was supposed to be a place of peace and understanding. It was supposed to bring species together. Now it was going to be the place where alien children called their parents bad words. Get me, Jinnah said, and get me our Nam and our cultural. We need to fix this before the council meeting. Nodded and hurried out of the room. 2 hours later, the team was assembled in Jinnah's office. Sat in the corner trying to make himself as small as possible. He had not spoken since he arrived. He knew this was his fault. Was packing back and forth. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick movements. Her job was to help humans and aliens understand each other's cultures. This situation was exactly the kind of disaster she worked to prevent. Sat calmly on the couch, reading something on her tablet. She was the station's expert on alien languages. She understood how different species communicated, how their translators worked, and why certain words caused certain reactions. So Jinnah began. We have 17 alien cubs who now know human curse words. We have 6 days until the biggest diplomatic event of the year. What are our options? Raised his hand weakly. Can we just delete the words from their translators? Shook her head without looking up from her tablet. The use organic implants. So do most of the species on this station. The words are not stored like files on a computer. They are woven into the cub's actual brain tissue. Removing them would be like trying to make you forget your mother's birthday. Possible, but very dangerous and probably illegal. Sank lower in his chair. What if we talk to the parents? Suggested. Explain what happened, ask them to tell their children not to use the words. Jinnah considered this. And how do we explain that a human engineer taught their children to say things that made a teacher faint? Stopped packing. That would not look good for human-alien relations. No, it would not. Finally looked up from her tablet. There is one possibility. We could try to teach the cubs context. Everyone looked at her. Human curse words are not actually bad, explained. They are just words. What makes them powerful is when and how they are used. If we teach the cubs that these words are only for certain situations, they might stop using them inappropriately. Jinnah thought about this. So we hold a class. We explain that these words are not for formal settings. Exactly, we give them rules. Children understand rules. finally spoke. His voice was quiet and worried. "Do you really think alien cubs are that different from human kids?" Everyone looked at him. "Because I remember being a kid," he continued. "And when adults told me not to say something, it just made me want to say it more." The room was silent for a long moment. Jinnah sighed. "We do not have a better option. We try the class. We explain the rules. And we hope these alien cubs are more mature than human children." Laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "We are going to cause an interstellar incident. I can feel it." "One interstellar incident at a time," Jinnah said. "First, we try education. If that fails, we move to panic." She looked out the window again. The stars were beautiful and cold. Somewhere out there, 17 alien cubs were practicing words that could destroy careers, start wars, and ruin friendships between entire species. And it was all because could not win at poker. She turned back to her team. "Let us get to work. We have 6 days to save the galaxy from the word bastard." Nobody laughed. It was not funny. It was just true. The classroom was small and warm. Colorful pictures hung on the walls. Soft cushions covered the floor because different alien species sat in different ways. Some had legs, some had tails, some just floated. Jinnah stood at the front of the room, trying to smile. Behind her was setting up a screen for the presentation they had made. In the back corner was hiding behind a large plant. He did not want the cubs to recognize him, but Jinnah had forced him to come. This was his mess. He needed to watch it get cleaned up. 17 cubs sat on the cushions, looking up at the humans with curious eyes. Was in the front row, her white fur perfectly groomed and her 7 eyes blinking with excitement. She clearly thought this was going to be fun. Stood near the door, ready to translate if the cubs' implants had trouble with any human concepts. She had warned Jinnah that some ideas did not translate well between species. The concept of embarrassment, for example, did not exist for and they had no word for regret. "Welcome, everyone," Jinnah began. Her voice was gentle and calm, like she was talking to very young children, which of course she was. "Today we are going to learn about human culture. Specifically, we are going to learn about something called context." A cub raised 2 of its arms. "Is this about the special words?" Jinnah kept her smile in place. "Yes, this is about the special words." Bounced on her cushion. "I told them you would explain. I told them these words were important." Jinnah glanced at, who looked like she wanted to run away. "Yes, well, let us begin." Pressed a button and the screen lit up. It showed a picture of 2 humans talking. One was smiling, one was frowning. "Humans use different words in different situations," Jinnah explained. "When we are happy, we use happy words. When we are sad, we use sad words. And when we are very, very upset, we sometimes use strong words." The cubs nodded. This made sense so far. "The strong words that learned are called curse words," Jinnah continued. "They are words that express very big feelings. Anger, frustration, surprise. They are not bad words exactly. They are just very powerful words." A cub raised a crystalline arm. Its body sparkled in the classroom lights. "So these words have power." Jinnah hesitated. She could feel the conversation going in a dangerous direction. In a way, yes. They can make people feel strong emotions. The cub turned to look at the other cubs. Its faceted eyes glittered. Fascinating. That was not good. Jinnah pressed on quickly. "But powerful words must be used carefully," she said. "In human culture, we have rules about when these words can be used. We never use them in formal settings. We never use them when talking to leaders or teachers. We only use them with close friends in private places when something very upsetting has happened." Raised one of her 7 ears, but the big human used them when he lost a game. Was that upsetting? In the corner made a small whimpering sound. "For him, yes," Jinnah said. "Losing the game made him feel frustrated. The words helped him express that frustration without doing anything harmful." without doing anything harmful, repeated from the doorway. That is the key point. Humans sometimes use these words to release pressure. It is better than hitting things or breaking objects. The cubs were all listening very carefully now. Their translators were working hard, processing every word. Spoke again, her voice was thoughtful, so cursing prevents violence. Jinnah blinked. That was not exactly what she had meant to say, but it was not wrong either. Sometimes, she admitted, sometimes it helps people calm down. Then these words are safety words, concluded. Her 7 eyes were bright with understanding. They help humans stay peaceful. They release bad feelings before they become bad actions. Jinnah opened her mouth to correct this interpretation, but she stopped. Was wrong. She thought about all the times she had cursed quietly in her office after a difficult meeting. She thought about how much better she felt afterward. She thought about how a few bad words had saved her from saying something truly terrible to an annoying diplomat. That is one way to look at it, she said slowly. Stood up on her cushion, her fluffy fur puffed out with excitement. Then these words should be shared with everyone. If they help humans stay peaceful, they could help the whole galaxy stay peaceful. We should teach all species how to curse. The other cubs began chattering excitedly. The cubs clicked their mandibles in approval. The cubs chimed like bells. Even the quietest cubs were nodding their heads. Jinnah felt her heart sink. This was not going according to plan. Wait, she said, holding up her hands. That is not quite right. The words only work for humans because we understand the context. Other species might not react the same way. But was already talking to her friends. We can teach the context too. We can hold classes. We can spread the safety words across the whole station. Stepped forward. Her voice was higher than usual. Perhaps we should talk about the rules again. The rules about when not to use these words. The cubs were not listening. They were too excited. They had found a mission. They were going to bring peace to the galaxy through the power of profanity. Stepped out from behind his plant. His face was pale. I think we made it worse. Jinnah watched the cubs planning their language revolution. A cub was already composing a list of curse words, organizing them by emotional intensity. A cub was discussing the best ways to introduce the words to adults, was at the center of it all, conducting the chaos like a tiny, fluffy general. Much worse, Jinnah agreed. Walked over to join them. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were worried. We have given them a philosophical justification for spreading human profanity across the known universe. That is exactly what we did, said. She looked like she might cry. Jinnah took a deep breath. She watched the cubs chattering happily. They were so innocent. They genuinely believed they were doing something good. They thought they were helping. And the worst part was, they might not be completely wrong. The council meeting is in 4 days, said. He had been watching from outside the classroom door. What do we do now? Jinnah thought for a long moment. Then she straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. We prepare for the worst, she said. We warn the other human diplomats. We make sure everyone knows what might happen. And we pray that these cubs have better self-control than human children. Shook his head. Human children have terrible self-control. Jinnah looked at him. That is why we are praying. In the classroom, had climbed onto a table. She was giving a speech to the other cubs about the importance of emotional expression. Her 7 ears were waving dramatically. Her voice was filled with passion. She looked exactly like a tiny politician. A tiny, fluffy politician with 17 followers and a vocabulary that could make diplomats faint. The galaxy was not ready for this. But ready or not, it was coming. The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest room on the Galactic Unity Station. It was shaped like a bowl, with rows and rows of seats rising up from a central speaking platform. Lights floated in the air, changing color to match whoever was speaking. The ceiling was made of transparent crystal, showing the stars outside. Today, the hall was full. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated sections. Each section was designed for different body types. Some seats were made for beings with legs. Some were pools of water for species that could not survive in air. Some were just empty spaces where floating creatures could hover. Jinnah sat in the human section, near the middle of the hall, was on her left, was on her right. All three of them were dressed in their best formal uniforms. All three of them were sweating. It had been 4 days since the failed education attempt. 4 days of watching the cubs whisper to each other in hallways. 4 days of waiting for disaster. 4 days of hoping that maybe, just maybe, the cubs would keep quiet during the most important meeting of the year. "Do you think they are here?" whispered. "Who?" Jinnah whispered back. "The cubs." Jinnah looked around the hall. There was an observation balcony high above the speaking platform. It was reserved for family members, journalists, and educational groups. She could see shapes moving up there, but the lights made it hard to see clearly. "I hope not," she said. The meeting began. The first 2 hours were boring in the best possible way. Trade agreements were discussed. Border disputes were reviewed. A long argument about shipping lanes put half the audience to sleep. Jinnah began to relax. Maybe her worries had been for nothing. Maybe the cubs had learned their lesson. Maybe everything would be fine. Then High Diplomat rose to speak. His mother was tall and elegant, her fur rippling through calm shades of blue and silver. She moved to the central platform with grace. The floating lights shifted to a soft white color, indicating a formal address. "Distinguished colleagues," began. "I wish to address the ongoing dispute between the Federation and the Collective regarding the nebula trade routes." The delegate, a large creature with gleaming compound eyes, leaned forward in its seat. Its mandibles clicked impatiently. "As many of you know," continued, "the proposed tariff adjustments would significantly impact shipping interests. We believe that a compromise can be reached if both parties are willing to acknowledge certain historical agreements." She paused, gathering her thoughts for the next point. And then a small voice rang out across the entire Grand Assembly Hall. "Bullshit." Every head in the room turned toward the observation balcony. The floating lights flickered in confusion, unsure whose color to display. Jinnah's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice. She knew it very, very well. Stood at the railing of the balcony, her small, fluffy body barely visible over the edge. Her 7 eyes were blazing with righteous anger. Her 7 ears were pointed straight up. She looked like a tiny warrior angel made of clouds. "The know their shipping routes overlap with protected spawning grounds." Continued. Her translator rendered every word in perfect, crystal-clear galactic standard. "They are being complete assholes about it, and everyone is too damn polite to say so." The hall was completely silent. Not a single creature moved. Not a single breath was taken. Fur cycled through approximately 20 different colors in 3 seconds. Jinnah did not know what most of those colors meant, but she was pretty sure embarrassed purple and horrified orange were in there somewhere. The delegate made a sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. Its mandibles opened and closed without producing words. And then from the section, a sound emerged that Jinnah had never heard before. It started low, like crystal bells being shaken gently. Then it grew louder, higher, more rhythmic. The senator was laughing. "The cub speaks truth," the senator said, his crystalline body shimmering with amusement. "For 300 years, we have danced around this issue with careful words and empty promises. Perhaps human diplomatic vocabulary has merit after all." The hall erupted into chaos. Some delegates were shouting in outrage. Some were laughing. Some were demanding that the human delegation apologize. Some were demanding that the delegation apologize. The floating lights were spinning in confused circles, trying to keep up with who was speaking. Jinnah stood up. She did not know what she was going to say. She did not have a plan. She just knew that she needed to do something before this became an actual war. But before she could speak, another voice cut through the noise. "Everyone shut the hell up." Another cub had joined on the balcony. This one was the young who had been in the education class. Its crystalline body was glowing with the effort of projecting its voice across the hall. "The adults all talk too much," declared. "You use pretty words to hide ugly truths. Is right. Everyone knows they are lying about their shipping routes. Everyone knows they are too proud to admit they need help. Everyone knows this meeting is a waste of time because nobody says what they really mean." More cubs were appearing on the balcony now. Cubs, cubs, cubs from species Jinnah could not identify. They stood together in a line, small and fluffy and crystalline and strange, looking down at the assembled leaders of the galaxy. "We learned from the humans," said, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "Humans use strong words to release their feelings. They curse so they do not fight. They say ugly things so they do not do ugly things. Maybe the galaxy needs to learn this too." The senator rose from his seat. He was old, his crystal body clouded with age, but his voice was strong and clear. "I have sat in this hall for 140 years, he said. "I have watched empires rise and fall. I have seen wars start over misunderstandings that could have been prevented with honest words. And I have never heard anyone speak as directly as these children just did." He turned to face the other delegates. "Perhaps we should listen to them. Perhaps we should stop hiding behind politeness and start saying what we mean." The delegate stood up, its compound eyes focused on the balcony where the cubs waited. For a long moment it said nothing. Then, slowly, it turned too. "The cub is correct," it said. Its voice was stiff, reluctant, but honest. "Our shipping routes do pass through your spawning grounds. We have known this for decades. We did not say anything because we did not want to renegotiate the trade agreements." Stared at the... Her fur had settled into a strange color that Jinnah had never seen before. It might have been shock. It might have been respect. It was hard to tell. "I see," said slowly. "Then perhaps we should have an honest conversation about what we both actually want." A low murmur spread through the hall. It was not angry anymore. It was thoughtful, curious, hopeful. Jinnah slowly sat back down in her seat. Her legs were shaking. Her heart was pounding. But for the first time in 4 days, she did not feel like the galaxy was about to end. Leaned over and whispered, "Did that actually work?" Jinnah watched the delegates beginning to talk to each other. Not shouting, not arguing, actually talking, maybe. On the observation balcony caught Jinnah's eye. The little cub smiled, all 7 eyes crinkling with joy. Jinnah did not know whether to laugh or cry. So she did both. 6 months had passed since the day that became known as the incident. The galaxy had changed, not in big, dramatic ways, not with wars or revolutions, but in small, important ways that Jinnah noticed every single day. She stood at the same speaking platform where had been interrupted all those months ago. The Grand Assembly Hall was full again. Representatives from all 47 species watched her with curious eyes. The floating lights had turned a warm gold color, indicating a historic occasion. Jinnah cleared her throat and began to speak. "Distinguished colleagues," she said, "6 months ago, a small cub taught this council a lesson that we should have learned centuries ago. She taught us that sometimes honesty is more important than politeness. She taught us that strong words can prevent strong actions. She taught us that the galaxy needed a pressure valve." She paused and looked around the hall. So many different creatures, so many different cultures, so many different ways of seeing the universe. And yet, here they were, all listening to a human talk about the power of cursing. "Today," she continued, "I am proud to announce the official passage of the Human Emotional Vocabulary Integration Act." A polite round of applause rippled through the hall. Some species clapped, some species clicked, some species chimed. They rippled their fur in shades of approval. This act establishes guidelines for the appropriate use of strong emotional language in diplomatic settings, Jinnah explained. It does not require anyone to curse. It does not encourage rudeness, but it does create formal spaces where direct, honest, even harsh expression is permitted and protected. She pressed a button on the podium, and the floating lights shifted to display a document in the air. Under these guidelines, any delegate may call for a direct speech session during deadlocked negotiations. During these sessions, formal language rules are suspended. Delegates may express their true feelings about issues, other delegates, or proposed policies using whatever words they feel are necessary. A delegate raised one of its arms. The lights shifted to focus on it. And what prevents these sessions from becoming chaotic insult matches? They asked. Its voice was skeptical but not hostile. Jinnah smiled. An excellent question. The act includes training programs developed by human linguists and psychologists. Before any species can participate in direct speech sessions, their delegates must complete a course on emotional expression. They must learn not just the words but the purpose behind them. She gestured toward the observation balcony, where a familiar group of small figures was watching. And they will be helped by our diplomatic trainees. The cubs waved from the balcony, was at the center, of course. She wore a tiny formal sash that marked her as an official youth diplomatic advisor. Her fur was groomed perfectly. Her 7 eyes sparkled with pride. The same cubs who started this revolution will help guide its development, Jinnah said. They understand both the power and the responsibility that comes with strong words. They will teach others. The senator rose from his seat. His crystal body caught the light as he spoke. I must say, he declared, in the 140 years I have served in this hall, I never expected humans to become our teachers in emotional communication. Your species was always considered too volatile, too unpredictable, too ruled by feelings rather than logic. He paused, and a sound like distant bells echoed from his body, the version of a chuckle. It turns out, he continued, those feelings were your greatest gift. You learned how to express them without destroying yourselves. Now you will teach the rest of us. Jinnah bowed her head in acknowledgement. We are honored to share what we have learned. After the formal ceremony ended, Jinnah made her way up to the observation balcony. The cubs surrounded her immediately, asking questions in 6 different languages all at once. Their translators buzzed and hummed, trying to keep up. Jinnah held up her hands for silence. One at a time, please. Pushed through the crowd to stand in front of Jinnah. Did we do good? She asked. Her voice was eager but uncertain. Jinnah knelt down to meet the cubs' eyes, all 7 of them. You did something amazing, she said honestly. You changed the way the galaxy communicates. That is not a small thing. Sfur rippled with happiness. Mother says I might be a diplomat when I grow up, like her, but maybe better. Jinnah laughed. I believe it. A heavy hand landed on Jinnah's shoulder. She looked up to see standing behind her. He had been assigned as the official human liaison to the Youth Diplomatic Training Program. It was his punishment for starting this whole mess. It was also his redemption. You did good up there, he said to Jinnah. Then he looked down at and the other cubs. You all did. Smiled up at him. The same man whose bad words had changed her life. I have been saving a new phrase, she said, for special occasions. Is it appropriate to say kiss my ass when someone proposes bad legislation? Who had been standing nearby, choked on her drink. Considered the question seriously. You know what? Yeah, it kind of is, but only during direct speech sessions, not during regular meetings. Nodded solemnly. I will remember. Jinnah stood up and looked out over the grand assembly hall. Delegates from dozens of species were still talking, not just about politics and trade, but about feelings and frustrations and hopes and fears. They were being honest with each other in ways they never had before. All because one fluffy cub had learned some bad words from a poker game. She felt step up beside her. "Do you think this will actually work?" asked quietly. "Do you think the galaxy can really learn to curse its way to peace?" Jinnah thought about all the wars that had started because of misunderstandings, all the treaties that had failed because no one would say what they really meant, all the hatred that had grown in the silence between polite words. "I do not know," she admitted, "but I think it is worth trying. Humans spent thousands of years learning how to express our feelings without killing each other. Maybe we can help other species skip a few steps." Nodded slowly. "That is very optimistic for you." Jinnah smiled. Having 17 alien cubs call galactic leaders assholes changes a person. Below them, the senator was teaching a group of young how to use the word bullshit in a sentence, was discussing the emotional nuances of damn with a fascinated academic. The hall buzzed with conversation and laughter and the occasional curse word, spoken carefully, purposefully, honestly. The galaxy was learning to curse. And somehow, against all odds, it was becoming a more honest place for it. Appeared at Jinnah's side one more time. "Ambassador Park." "Yes." The cub looked up at her with all 7 eyes, serious and thoughtful. "Thank you for not being angry. When I learned the words, when I taught my friends, you could have been angry, but instead you helped us understand." Jinnah felt something warm spread through her chest. That is what humans try to do. We make mistakes. We cause problems. But then we try to understand them. We try to turn them into something good. Nodded. "Then humans are very wise." Jinnah laughed. "Not wise, just experienced at messing things up." The cub considered this. "Is that not the same thing?" For a long moment, Jinnah did not have an answer. Then she smiled and put her hand gently on his fluffy head. "Maybe it is," she said. "Maybe it is." The stars shone through the crystal ceiling above them. The galaxy stretched out in all directions, vast and strange and full of creatures who were only just beginning to understand each other. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a group of cubs was teaching the universe that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is exactly what you mean, even if that means cursing.